Hey, my royals, I am excited. I am here with Cadence April and Micah Da Vinci, and we're going to do a little chat and welcome you guys. Thank you for being on our show. We are excited to share who you guys are, and these are Tik Tok royalty because here we're royal. So, welcome both of you.
Okay, so my first question is for Cadence. So, as most artists tend to evolve over time, some of their lyrics tend to be considered more of like their freshman era. Like, think about like the debut album era of, music as opposed to like the ones that stand the test of time, the ones that are timeless, as they say. So, what song or song of yours would you say is one of those ones that'll always stand out and hit no matter what, and why?
Oh, that's a really good question. And I think I'm already giggling, but I think the song for me probably would be Black Diamond. That's one of the songs I feel like because of um, just what it's talking about. I feel like that's already been something that's been a consistent message that because history repeats itself and because we're still going through certain fights, but also even after we're done through all those fights, I just feel like it's still an empowering message of loving yourself. So I kind of think that that's something that's always going to be something we need to remind ourselves about. So I would say Black Diamond for the most part. Yeah.
I agree.
Likewise.
And then I was, as you know, I like to do a lot of a bit of research, and I found out that on your Twitter, Cadence, one of the artists that you seem to retweet the most from is good old Missy Elliott. So I was wondering, what about her do you connect with the most, and how do you channel that relativity into your own music?
Oh, great question. So when you said Twitter, I'm like, wow, that's crazy because I don't use Twitter that much. But what I relate to Missy about the most is just that she is a different Black girl. Like she broke a lot of barriers. She was very bold in her music. She's very unapologetic. And I think that as a Black woman, and especially a dark skinned Black woman in the industry, there's a lot more room for us now, but it's just been something that's always kind of like Missy's an exception. Like I feel like she broke through the barriers and that's why people love her so much, because she just was like, I don't care. I'm here. I'm kicking down the door and that's why I'm here. So I feel like for a lot of women, and they definitely try to blackball her. They tried to, whether it was her weight or a certain look and just for her not to be heard. So I feel like for her power, her energy, and just she's a dope artist. Like
Yes.
even if I didn't see what she looked like, her lyricism, her energy, her excitement. But it's just a bonus seeing like, her creativity, her just craziness. Like I just like how she's out of the box and she just really does her. So that's how I relate to her. I look up to that a lot. I feel like she's just herself and she represents like finding out, like I found out a detail about her that she likes to record with no one in the room and someone as bold as her. I've always been the type to be like, everybody leave the room, like, so hearing that even she goes through something like that, it just made me love her even more because it's just like she chose to come out of her shell on the stage. So
Right.
that's why I like her a lot.
So I also have a question for you, Cadence. What small things do you incorporate in your routine to keep a great hustle and life balance?
Oh, that's a great question too. So what small things? I would say that that's an area I seriously need to work on is the balance part. I am figuring it out. I'm just being honest with that because there's some things that I still need the kinks, that I need to get through. But I would say some things for me that does kind of keep me afloat is just kind of trying to prepare ahead of time does help me, you know. Rehearsing for sure when I do that. Definitely preparing ahead of time, writing out my sets or trying to figure out like what notes that I know that might slip me, trying to be detailed. Um, Definitely meditating and praying helps me a lot. Doing my warm-ups, just trying to when I remember again drinking water, those kind of things like they seem
That part.
right. They seem so small, but when you're going in and you're like, oh, I got it. It's okay. I don't need to. It's like, then your throat starts closing up and you're like, ah. But when you're ready, that really helps. So those are some little things that get overlooked, but it goes a long way.
Awesome.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
And Cadence, another question. How do you feel that you as an artist are contributing to both the diversification and sort of transcendence, if you will, across, both genre and color lines?
Ooh, that's such a good. The way you worded that was just poetic. I love that.
Thank you.
Like snaps. But I think for me, basically, when it comes to breaking boundaries and color lines. So I will say basically how I feel like I did that in my songs is like, I get to a vulnerable place. Like for instance, Black Diamond, at the time that I wrote it or released it, even 2018, that's when it released. But I'm not gonna say it definitely was a conversation. It's been a conversation in history before too, but I feel like it wasn't pop culture per se.
Right.
And it wasn't really as discussed as it is now. Like now there's a whole different way versus what it was then, but it was still deep to me. So I felt like bringing up that conversation of, I called it Black Diamond because we're all diamonds, we're all gems. That's why I like to call people gems. But I feel like, yeah, right. It's like we all are special,
Right,
like,
yeah.
but it's just, and we shine in our own ways. But I felt like a Black diamond is not, you would think black, it's not a color we associate with good things a lot of the times, just in general. So I kind of felt like I had researched the diamond, and ironically, the diamond is matte. Typically, the diamond, how you find it in its pure form, is a matte diamond.
Right.
But I thought to just in general, like as a Black person, as a dark skinned person, a lot of things that were made fun of as I was growing up, like my darker skin or, being pretty for a Black girl, and that's just the exterior. There's so much more to this. There's just things about me, myself too, but that I felt might be overlooked or not celebrated. So I just felt like this was a ode to myself to pick myself up. I think just being very vulnerable in my music and whether it's a made up story or whether it's a real story, just pulling from that place of storytelling and like kind of just deciding to be that. I realized truth tellers can be like troublemakers in the society, we get flack and stuff, but I do think that pulling from a vulnerable place is important, and that's how I do that. So,
But to your credit, that's courageous, and I think we need more truth tellers, more, and I think society is getting to a place where at least we're starting to have those conversations more, whereas you wouldn't have it. So kudos to that, because it takes a big thing. It's one thing to be vulnerable with family or friends, but to be vulnerable with the public, and then for the public to say, hey, I see myself in that story or in your story, it's such a power. And we, like I said, we need more artists. And Micah, you do the same thing, the empowerment you do for the men, and I just love that, because we don't hear enough men backing up the men either. So both of you in your storytelling and your music, I think honestly, you guys are touching that nerve that needs to be kind of woken up or moved around. And you're the voice for people that don't have a voice at this moment, and so, but I also know that you are opening your heart, your vulnerability, and you're putting it out there, and it is courageous. So if you don't meditate on that often, just understand that that is a courageous move, and just keep going, because the support is there, and the healing that comes from your music, both of you, is there. So it's amazing, honestly.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, capping on y'all's music, Micah, it seems that your music rejuvenates you. I wanted to know what your recording sessions have inspired you to do going forward.
Oh man, bring it on stage. I really want to bring it on stage. I want to bring what I do in the healing room, online, on stage. The same quality, same everything. I was just talking to Cadence about this. Yeah, I just want to, just make a really great show. I want to have a choir up there. I want to have a band.
Oh, there we go.
Crazy stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're ready. Yes.
For sure. Just want to do it really, really big.
Yeah. So my question is for both of you. So our theme this month is food. And fall is such a special time of comfort foods. And I know Kim's already bouncing because food's her thing. That's our thing. We like food, right? So my question is, what comfort foods do you guys gravitate around this season of fall, whether it's ethnic or American or a mix of both? Either one of you.
Jamaican food, man.
Hey!
Rice and peas, all that.
Yeah.
Jerk chicken, oxtail, all that. I could go on and on.
Yes.
It's Jamaican
Okay.
food, home cooked food,
Mm.
All right, just call us.
in
when we-
all seasons.
Yeah.
Give us a plate.
For me, I would say same thing. Like I come from a Haitian background. I do love Jamaican food too. But my parents, they cook, my mom cooks the Haitian food and she definitely mixes it up.
Oh.
She mixes it up with some, American dishes, but she kind of puts her spin on it. It's like she makes that mac and cheese baked in the oven, them sliced potatoes baked in the oven a certain way. She makes the stuffed potatoes, everybody waits for the potatoes. That's the one thing. If she don't make the potatoes, we ask her about the potatoes. We ask her about the pig, the grill. In our
Oh.
culture, she doesn't make that often. We don't eat pork very often, but she will do it for special occasions. That turkey, that chicken, gravy. I could go on, but I love comfort food. I can eat that anytime as well.
Why do you think those particular foods you would consider comfort food? Like, what is it? Is it memories? Is it like, what's the feel? What's the thing behind it? You go, this is a comfort food versus it's just a snack or just dinner.
For me, it feels like home.
Yeah.
It's definitely nostalgic. It definitely just reminds me of like family and just being all together. I have like a really, I guess you could call it a big family. So it just reminded me of that when we're all together, all united, all connected. So yeah, especially right now, they're kind of like, I don't live with them anymore. It's been a while. I don't get to see them much. So every time I do have, it reminds me of them, just love, just,
There you go.
yeah, for me, it's nostalgic for me,
Aw.
for sure. And it's like a simpler time
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can
for
understand.
me. Yeah, for sure.
Definitely can agree with the simpler time, and the nostalgia. And the smells do kind of bring back memories too. Like there's like a hot
Right.
chocolate my mom makes that I know it's a certain chocolate that
Mhm.
she would get the cocoa. My grandparents would bring the cocoa from Haiti when they'd come here. And so whenever she'd make that, I smell that specific scent. And it's like, dang, like you think back, it feels so long ago that we all were around the table enjoying a meal together at the same time. So for sure, I agree with that too. Like I definitely miss those times when everyone can make it every holiday, when the house is filled with people and laughter. And I mean, the food is just dang good. It's just good food. Man, I could eat that all week.
Yeah.
So, Micah, one artist to another, I know that a lot of topics, things like breakups, things that make you angry, a sad memory, they can be very difficult to write about in your music. So I'm wondering, what topic would you say has been one of the most difficult for you to write because of how personal it is?
Losing someone,
Mhm.
losing someone for sure. Yeah, it's really tough. I've written songs about that before, but I typically would stay away from it because it's very difficult. I've lost a lot of people, so I would have albums
Mm.
if I were to make songs about them. But yeah, that's definitely the hardest for me.
And then you have an album out called Trust the Process. I'm curious,
Yeah.
what inspired the title for that album and how do all the songs kind of tie into that statement?
All right, so brace yourself. Long story. So
Here we go.
about a year ago, I used to drive trucks. Before, and about a year ago, I got in a really bad accident. I got a back injury, all that. It kind of put everything to a halt for me. So I was it put me in a really, really dark place, I didn't really want to make music. I wasn't really trying to do anything. It was really tough, really, really tough. I almost lost my life. A car hit someone was driving on the wrong side of the highway. They hit a bridge, started flipping towards me, couldn't get out of the way. Almost went straight into my windshield. So it really shook me. It shook me up for sure. But yeah, as time went on, shout out to Cadence, shout out to my community. I have a lot of great people around for sure. They encouraged me the entire way. One of my friends, pretty much my brother, Leo, he literally came over because I was limping. I couldn't move. I was in pain all the time, so I couldn't really travel. I had PTSD from driving, all that. So he came over every single week, almost every other day, to check on me and make sure I'm good. So stuff like that kept me going for sure. But yeah, fast forward, trust the process. Like I said, I was in a very dark place. I didn't understand. I was like, why? Pretty much the, why me kind of thing. I felt like, I was doing everything I was supposed to do. It wasn't my fault, none of the, what I mean, but it felt like the world kind of turned on me and I didn't do anything wrong. So like I said, I didn't understand. I didn't get it. I wanted to be angry. I wanted to be all these different stuff. I was angry. I was down. I was a lot of those things. But yeah, over time, I just started realizing, there's still blessings within all of that.
Right.
You know what I mean? There were still so many blessings within that. Eventually, I started making music again. That's just something, trust the process, something I've been saying for years, but it finally like really meant something this time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, yo, we have to trust the process. It's not for me to understand right now. Eventually, I will. Eventually it'll all make sense. You know what I mean? God knows what He's doing. I don't need to question no more. Even though it's tough right now, even though I'm down, I have no more questions. So
Yeah.
that's where that came from.
So I have a question for both of you. You both have collaborated with artists on and off social media. What do you feel makes or breaks a collaboration? And how would you or have you dealt when a collaboration starts to fall apart?
I'll let Cadence go first.
That's such a good. You guys have such good questions. Like
For
really,
real?
I'm like y'all are good. I love it. So I would say, as far as that's collaborating and you said what makes or breaks it. I definitely think I'll start with the making it. I would say like return time or first communication.
Okay.
If things change, if things are going on, sometimes things happen, it's life. But I think as long as you communicate with each other, especially if they're waiting for a specific return time, it's important to let the person know. And I know how that can get. Like sometimes if something comes up and you could be afraid to let them know, you don't want things to like the opportunity to go away, but it's better to let them know, is what I've learned, and vice versa. But I think for sure communication's number one. Definitely number two would be return time. Because I think sometimes people just sit on things and, I'm not gonna lie, I have some songs in the vault that are from a long time ago too. But those weren't, I will say those were songs that I was like, this is absolutely coming out in this time. But I do feel like I communicated with the person versus like, there's certain things that I feel like I put verses on or really went out the way for. And then sometimes you never hear anything about it ever again, like not even this is coming out soon or later.
Oh, wow.
And I think that can be more a personal thing that the artist, like once the work is done, it's their work or it's our work, whether it comes out or not, I don't know. But I do think sometimes that has to be up to them because sometimes it's not the time, life happens. Same thing on this end. It's not always like a personal thing. It's sometimes just whatever's going on. But I do think it's important to let people know if it's still in the radar or, just making sure that whatever was agreed upon gets done is the main point. Because even if y'all use it, don't use it, at least the main work was done. And I think that's the make or break. If you just say you're going to do something, you never tell me what's going on, and then you go ghost or like, God forbid, use something that doesn't belong to you and different, there's a lot of things that could go wrong. But gratefully, I haven't had any truly I haven't had any alarming things to the point where it's like, I'm like livid or something. I've had disappointments where you're like, oh, that was really dope. Where did it go? Where is it ever gonna come out? But but there's some other than that, thankfully things have been okay. So that's my answer. Yeah.
What about you, Micah?
All right, for me, pretty much what Cadence said, return time is very, very important. But also for me, ego, right? Some people people like to tell you who they know a lot.
Oh.
Right? Before even showing you what they can do.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense? Like,
Yeah.
like, yeah, I've been here, I've done this, I've been like, that's cool. What can you actually add to,
There you go.
you know what I mean? What can you actually do right now? Because where you been doesn't do anything for me.
There you
I don't care about that. I don't care about your numbers. I don't care about none of those things. Okay. If I like you, if you're dope, I'll work with you. Period. You know what I mean? If you're a good person, like that too. If you're a good person, if you're not a good person, that matters to me too. You know what I mean? I look at it the same way. This dude, La Russell, he's an artist. You know what I mean? He pretty much said how you conduct business, you know what I mean, also reflects your character. You know what I mean? It's not separate. It's not business and then personal. Like if you do bad business, that reflects your character. Because if you could do that to somebody over here, you can do that to me.
Right.
You know what I mean? If the, you know, situation's right. But yeah, that's for me. Ego.
With that, I also have a question for both of you. What spiritual grounding do you think is vital to continue to create the way both of you do? Because it's so impactful.
Well, I'll start with that
Yeah,
one.
I'm gonna
That's a great question, love. That is really necessary because the spiritual grounding, I would say, like, it's just a matter of the consistency. Consistency is a word I received for years that I need to do, that I need to be better at. Like, people be consistent, be consistent. And I think that, like, for me, I'm a believer. I do believe in Jesus. I know that I can be worldly at times. I know that I'm not all the way always like in adherence to everything like I should be, but that is my foundation. That is where my conscious and my awareness comes from. And I do think I was telling Miss Rebecca, like, it's what I just said to Rhea and Miss Rebecca, but like, I literally was telling her like how, like, not being in church as much, like, even though I kind of strayed away, but like something about being there every Sunday, worshiping every time, that discipline, even if you don't want it, sometimes you don't want to feel like going, but something about that consistency of doing that, that's really where my power came from. Because not being there for so long, I see the difference in myself. I see how much harder it is to get over things. I see how much more anger and more sadness and the days that are tougher when you are in that flow of worship or gratitude constantly. You might not realize that's what you're doing, but when you're singing like, you are enough, you are amazing, thank you that you love me, thank you that you love a wretch like me, the worst thing I could ever do is never bad enough. So things like worship and praise is something I definitely don't do enough. I really don't. But those things I think is so necessary because I've seen the opposite. And I'm still trying to deal with the opposite effect of being stubborn and letting life get to me so much that it pulled me away from God. Like things happening in my life made me so frustrated and bitter and angry and resentful. And it's like that healing process. We just need it for life. It doesn't matter what we're doing. We need that for life. But I definitely think those things do help spiritually to be grounded, to pray. And if you're not, a prayer person or a worship person, I think it's still kind of prayer. Yeah, it is prayer. So like meditating though, taking the time to meditate, like talking to yourself sometimes, talking it out loud. Like I used to think that sounds crazy, but sometimes just sitting there and like, just I'll be like, wow, that was so crazy. I really did not like how, and you know what, they shouldn't have, whatever I gotta sit there and do. If I gotta go in the car and talk to myself in the shower, it doesn't matter. Yeah. I'm talking to myself and I'm still right. And after talking to certain people, I found out that they do it too. So I'm like, oh, I'm not that crazy, Yeah. So we need to do it because it's thoughts that sometimes in your head you just can't get it out. So I think meditation, prayer and worship number one would be the best. I would say outside of that, meditation. And sometimes people don't realize meditating could just be talking to God, just sitting there with yourself, sitting there with your honest thoughts too. I think letting yourself really feel your thoughts and really process them, because I don't do that. I've been so much of like trying to be okay when I'm not okay, showing face. I was talking to Micah about that recently. Like sometimes I could feel the opposite effect of not having a spiritual grounding is you can feel like an imposter. You know, you can struggle with imposter syndrome. You can feel like you can feel a lot of doom and gloom where it's not necessary. Sometimes it's really not that bad. And sometimes it's just a matter of we are trying to pull from ourselves instead of pulling from source. And I think whatever you call God, Yahweh, Yeshua, if you don't call it the same things, but I think that if you can at least acknowledge that there's a higher power, that's a start. I do believe God's a true God, you know, but those things help. I think fasting and praying, fasting is something I really need to do, but it's something I would like to do in the near future. I've been talking about fasting for like 2 years and I haven't really disciplined myself to do it. The Daniel fast is the one I was supposed to try. But I just, I got the book and everything. So it's something to get back to, you know, I went and got the groceries, everything. So, you know, you keep starting over until you get it. You keep going until you get it, but
Keep going.
necessary.
For me, is constant reminders, consistent reminders. You know, like what I do now, that's what it is for me. Meditation, just like Cadence said. And just remembering that like it doesn't have to look like the next person's, like how the next person meditate, how this person does it, how focus on you, like what works for you. You know what I mean? My meditation, sometimes, you know, sometimes it's very, very silent. I'm just sitting in silent. I'm not saying anything right now. Sometimes it's just going in there and playing the piano. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's creating, just releasing, you know what I mean? Yeah, just releasing. But yeah, consistent reminders, because life is hard.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure all of us could agree with that. Life is very hard. You know what I mean? But just reminding yourself every single day that, you know what I mean, you're blessed even through, you know what I mean, even through the hard times. You're extremely blessed. Even through the storms, still raining blessings, all that. Yeah, consistent reminders.
I love the intention. I think it's the intentionality. You're intentionally seeking, you're intentionally making a decision to, because I know for us, you know, as a team, as individuals, and you know, you guys work as a team, you know, we deal with our own internals and then we're affected by the internals of those around them, how it comes out. And you know, I'm with you on the whole, the more you know yourself, the more you know God. And, you know, for me, what my path has been and why we're doing this is I finally gave into, I just want to live life. I'm done with the drama. I'm done with all that. Like life is simple and it's love and it's passion. And if you're creative, go for that. If you're a mathematician, go for that. If you want, do whatever stirs your heart, do whatever grabs your passion, and don't get caught in the chains of a 9 to 5. I'm at a place for me personally of I just want to live. I want to enjoy everything. I want to experience and learn everything I can. Like I'm sitting like looking at cameras and O-rings, and if I have someone that's recording artists, you know, or someone that does mashups, you know, like how do you do that? Like so, I think life is a lot more fun if you're open to learn and you're open to explore, because you're not going to know how far your giftings and how far your calling can go if you don't try it, you know. So yeah, I personally 100% agree that knowing some divine state is out there and is watching over you. And you know, I like you call him God. Everyone has, you know, different ways of, you know, doing that, meditating, all of that. I think it's important because there's so much now and we're so bombarded with social media. We're so bombarded with so much negative and confused stuff and, you know, everybody's perceptions, which, you know, it's good to talk, but if you're not in a grounded state, I think sometimes for me, it becomes overwhelming. There are days where I will let everybody know on social media, I'm not going to be on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. You're not going to see me because I need that time away to recenter myself.
I wanted to thank you both for expounding on that because, and you too, Reed, because especially like this month, God is really just, I just felt so ordered and so moved to be intentional every day. And the key that you both explained was consistency. Like I used to think of things in a big picture. Now I can see things in a big picture because every day I work to just set my eyes on what I feel led to do, whether it's creating or, you know, helping somebody out, listening to somebody, having fellowship with friends. Like, it's just so important to just take it one day at a time. And I know these two definitely have been teaching me that you know, you cannot slow down. Yeah, you cannot. Yeah, you can't rush life. And the more I notice, the more that I slow down, the better my products are. So yeah, thank you so much.
And Micah, one thing that I noticed a lot that a lot of, you know, both artists and fans to do is unfortunately comparison. People say, oh, this, you know, this artist sounds like Drake, this artist sounds like Dua Lipa, Lady Gaga, what have you. When you like, yeah, like you know how it is. People always love to compare because it's what's the word, you know, it's what they're familiar with. It's familiarity. So like well, I guess the question is, have you ever been compared to other artists, and do you find that flattering, or do you feel like it's kind of hard to meet those expectations of people?
It's flattering at first. Like for a while, people used to like they hear my music and like, Kendrick, you sound like Kendrick.
Okay.
Kendrick is amazing. First of all, I love Kendrick. Kendrick is great. I'm not intentionally trying to sound like I'm, you know what I mean? I've been creating music way before I heard him. Like I said, it was flattering at first, but over time, it's like, you know, they kept saying it. So I've always felt like, I don't know, I lost myself in that. I'm like, I'm trying to sound like me. I'm me. And everyone kept saying that. I've been compared to Bruno Mars. So then I realized, oh, people just be saying stuff. Like you said, they're just familiar with it. I'm like, Bruno, what? What are you talking about? So it's both. It's both. It's both.
I tell you. So speaking about creativity, like Micah, like what's more important to you, finding your voice or establishing your sound?
Oh. Oh wow.
Right?
That's a they're both very, very important to me. Both very. I would say voice. Because people remember your sound, but they always remember what you say.
Yeah.
You know, they always remember what you say and what you stand for. You know what I mean? Because even a bad person can make great sounds.
There you go.
You know what I mean? So they'll remember what you say for sure. So that voice for sure.
So my question again is for both of you. Whoever wants to answer. So we watched you grow and expand on your lives, and it is I love what you guys do. You know, Cadence, when you sing people in, that's awesome. And Micah, just watching when you flow. Like I play piano too, not like you, but I play piano too and I love it. And I know the feeling of just letting go and being there. And that I love that you allow that moment and share it with your audience and let them come into that. And I think that is the coolest thing. And then just seeing, you know, watching on the lives how people come and, you know, will connect with something that you put out there and then they add their own piece. I mean, it's just amazing to watch those, some of those collaborations you placed out there on TikTok. So, you know, and we know that that's all a learning process for both of you. So my question is, when it comes to being pushed out of your comfort zone, what has that process been like for both of you?
So I love that question because, you know, I call my segment the golden hour. And then I started adding on escaping the chrysalis. And it's exactly for that reason. It's trying to come out of the comfort zone, trying to, you know, challenge myself, because a lot of my creative, when you're cluttered in your mind or in your spirit or just in life, sometimes it blocks your creative process.
Right.
So I think sometimes like I would be in a place and I would be somewhere else, you know, or I wouldn't. So it doesn't really allow me to fully perform to my full potential. So I started to say to myself, well, you got to come out of your comfort zones. And thankfully, there's a lot of factors. Like I think part of that process has been being like a part of the agency that really helps because of the way they do things. You know, they would push us to do like the battles on TikTok, things like that. It kind of like it's like I'd be like, oh, I don't know these people like that, like I would talk to strangers, like like oh, I'm kind of scared, but I would do it and it would feel good. And meeting, I mean, within the agency is different. Like after we met each other, it kind of felt more like, like, oh cool, I know them to at least a degree, you know what I'm saying? So like I felt more comfortable. But that also made me feel braver to like, hey, I could probably do this with a whole stranger. Um, just kind of like reminding myself that this is what I want to do. Like no matter what life is happening, for the best times or the worst times, it's like that kind of helps me challenge myself more. It's like, okay, like, I see and seeing people show up around me too. I think when I see that, it also reminds me like, hey, everyone's gonna chase their dream and you shouldn't stop chasing yours because time's not gonna wait for you. Like maybe a season will go where you pause and everything, but at the end of the day, time keeps going. So.
For me, it's literally like not being able to swim and being thrown in the deep end of the pool, right? And just doing this, filling my hands and trying to figure it out. And eventually find a pace and a balance for myself. Because everything that you guys are seeing right now were all of my biggest fears. All of them. Might not be able to tell, but I'm extremely shy. I'm an extremely shy person but since I was younger. It was actually a real big problem. I lost a lot of opportunities. Not even gonna talk about that right now, but I was very shy. Being in front of a camera like this was nope, I'm good. Especially talking to the camera like this. Nope, I'm good. Yeah, just being in front of people watching me record, people, watching me sing, perform, all of that those are my biggest fears. I didn't like to be seen. When I was younger, people look at me and I would start crying. Like it was really bad.
Aww.
But so that's what it's been for me. It's just I'm literally facing all of my biggest fears all at once. Having like a close call really kind of put a sense of like urgency like in me. You know what I mean? It's like I gotta face these. I have to. You know what I mean? Because I want to be an example for when, the kids come around. I want to be an example for, I mean, I'm not gonna sit back and fold, in my own life and try to encourage somebody else. Like, no, I want to make sure that I'm facing these things, even though it's been crippling me since I was young. You know what I mean? I was an adult when I finally started facing these things. So yeah, literally facing all of my fears at once.
So I have a question for Cadence. Did you feel that your music, especially your style and your flavor of neo soul and spoken word, chose you, or did you choose it?
Ooh. That's a good one too. I was like, I've been snapping this whole time. They're good. I would say, that's a good question. I would say, did it choose me or did I choose it? Well, I kind of feel like, and I feel like both. So I would say definitely chose me first for the sense of because of my influences, like, growing up around soul, like a lot of our influences, like the time I grew up in the 90s, hearing like Alicia Keys, hearing these, Destiny's Child, hearing, all these super R&B, super soulful, Erykah Badu, sounds. And I realized that those sounds had been around me longer than I realized, because like my dad would play like smooth jazz, and they were really clean. They did not like any music with like we basically the song Puff by Erykah Badu was playing, but it was in jazz form with only the instrumentation. So we'd listen to that like back when they had 94.1, if y'all know that.
Oh my God.
WSJT. I used to like the little jingle because it was every single time, and we would listen to that on the ride home, and then I would always hear they'd play like Sade, and they'd play like you'd hear like some little parts of her song, but they would take out the rest of the words. Like it'd be like, and we would ride around the park till it's after dark. When we get home, all the dogs don't bark. Huh. And sometimes they play it, sometimes it just be the instruments. So I think just being around it from a young age and hearing like these different soulful sounds, these different like variations. Erica is a huge part of that. Lauryn Hill, and just loving that era so much. I feel like that imprinted a lot on me. And I think that I chose it in the sense that, I don't know, it just always kind of was a part of me to be kind of more on the soulful vibes. And I think because I'm like a singer, like I grew up around ballads as well, and like songs that are different genres, but I've been, singing. I think neo soul is kind of where you feel that a lot more. You kind of you feel something, so and it's a little saucier. I think sometimes that little thing happens on its own. I don't mean to be all sensual all the time, but it just happens. So it kind of chose me, I would say. But I do love the essence of what it is. I think that's why I choose it still.
So, Mr. Micah, I have done quite a bit of research on you, and according to one of your profiles, you can apparently play 7 instruments, with piano being your favorite. So I'm curious, what was the first instrument that you learned how to play, and what attracted you to learn to play it?
First instrument I played was piano. I was about 7 years old. I used to if you ever heard my tag, like on my songs, it said that sounds like music on my music. So that's my mom. When I was 7, I used to like beat on the walls, make beats on the walls and stuff like that, on the tables, all that table drumming. And she used to tell me to shut up all the time because like mad noise. But after a while, she started noticing that it sounded like I'm trying to create something. Like this has a certain pattern. And that's where that came from. She's like, that kind of sounds like music. So thankful to her to this day and forever. She decided to get me a keyboard for my birthday. She was like, I'm just getting him a piano. Go play that.
Go back there.
Instead of my walls. And she got me a keyboard for my 8th birthday. And I've been playing ever since. So shout out to Mama. Mama Victoria. Yeah.
And then, like, it's very evident that, with your skills as both an artist and a producer, like, it varies in sounds from all across the music spectrum. So I'm wondering, as an artist, how do you feel about, because, a lot of people, like fans, they tend to slap labels of genres to kind of distinguish different artists from the others. How do you feel about the fact that fans tend to do that with music?
I think it's limiting. I think it's very limiting, and some people get sucked into that. Oh, I'm a rapper, so I have to make this kind of music. I have to, when it comes to music and just being a creative, like there's no cap on that. It's endless. You know what I mean? It's endless. You never know what idea is gonna come tomorrow. You know what I mean? You never know what's gonna happen. And if you kind of like are stuck on this is what I do, this is what I do, those ideas do not come to you because whatever you're focusing on, that's what, you know what I mean? That's what's gonna come. So yeah, I think it's very limited. It's very limiting. I don't think we should have that limit on us at all. Because I'll create anything. I'll make a country song right now. It don't matter. Like I just let them come to me. Whatever, you know what I mean? If I want to make a rap, a R&B, this, whatever song, a dubstep song, it doesn't matter. Just let them come to me. There shouldn't be any limits.
So for both of you again, what I love the most is when you're putting out your messages, like for you, Cadence, you talk to your sunflowers, and Micah's got the Mica Mafia. So I was very curious. So for us, we have the Royals, right? Everyone, we just want to love on our audience. So my curiosity is, where did the sunflowers come from? Where did Mica Mafia come from? Like, how did that come about? To something that you guys do. I love that. When I saw Mica Mafia, I'm like, that is so cool. I love it. And the sunflowers, I'm like, and sunflower is my favorite flower. So yeah. So I was just curious, like, how did that come about and start rolling with your audience that way?
I would say for me, the way that I came with the sunflowers is because, so I call my segment the golden hour. Really, that came from, I've always loved sunsets and sunrises. I think they're beautiful. And I love I need to go outside. Like there's days where I don't go outside and I feel like a crazy person. I'm like, you can ask Micah. I'm like, I need the sun. I need the sun. And he'll be like, well, okay, go in the sun. And I'll find a little, even if I just walk outside, I need the sunlight. So yeah, like it's necessary. But as far as the sunflowers and the golden hour, it's really because there was a girl who did a shoot for both of us, and she goes by Dre, and she would always want to capture the golden hour specifically for me. She'd be like, I need to do a golden hour shoot with you. And that story is funny because timing issues, like I'd always be running late to a shoot or trying to figure out my timing. And I'm like, this is crazy because I actually love that look, and she'd always be like, it has to be this look. And I'm like, wow, this is so funny because I love being in the sun and I love the golden hour. So I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to call my segment the golden hour. And I think it represents me as well, as far as like what my desire is to be golden, is to stay bright, even if I don't feel it. People would tell me sometimes, even in my gloomiest times, they'd be like, you have a light, or to tell me something inspiring, and I'd be like, oh really? That's in the moment I'm like, okay. So like, let's just bring that back. Let me start to put that out there and let people know that they're golden. And then the sunflowers is more like, because with the sunlight we grow. You need the light for nature to thrive, and I love nature. So I was like, okay, well, I love flowers. So what's a cute flower that kind of feels like golden? And I thought the sunflowers. So that's how that came about. It's like, we can be like a little sunflower circle, like a little garden of flowers.
I love that. I love it. I love it.
And even in the dark, the sunflowers, they always face the sun.
That is so awesome. See, I didn't know that.
There you
go.
Cute.
What about you, Micah? We went from sunflowers to the mafia.
Yeah.
How did that work?
It's just like polar opposite. For me, it was a couple years ago. There's this dude. He goes by Sauce God. He was doing like music reviews on Instagram. This is like during the pandemic. Like everyone is shut down, so everyone is live. Everyone is just trying to show you what they're doing. He was doing music reviews. I submitted. He was playing my music, and then like a whole bunch of people of like my people came in. Like 20 people at once came in, right? And every time you do a review, that's what would happen. And he's like, "Yo, it's like the mafia in here. It's Micah Mafia." He's like, "Yo, every single time Micah is in here, there's like 20, 30 people coming." And he's like, it feels like the mafia, so that's where I got that from. And I was like, I like that.
We could go on forever. You guys are so amazing to talk to. I have one last question for both of you. Well, it's a bi question. So what advice would you give someone that is starting kind of a journey similar to yours? And what is up next for both of you?
Keep going.
Yeah, keep going.
Keep going. Do not stop for any reason. I'm not saying don't take your breaks. I'm not saying that, but like just keep going. Stay focused. Do not compare yourself to anybody. Don't compare your journey to this person's journey. Just focus on what you're doing. Focus on work on you. Work on your strengths. You know what I mean? Work on your weaknesses. Like on you. Focus on you. Period. None of this exists when you're creating. Just this. You know what I mean? Just keep going. Continue, because it's very hard. It's extremely hard. Dealing with personal life, dealing with, like I mentioned, losses, dealing with whatever it is. Stuff will happen throughout that. So it's very hard. Just try to focus as much as you can. I got a concert November 18th in person. It will be in Tin Roof in iDrive.
Oh, nice.
It's gonna be a really big event. It's gonna be really dope. I'm gonna be performing a lot of the songs from Trust the Process. Cadence will be performing as well.
Amazing.
I got a couple other people that will be performing. It's gonna be a great time. I'm gonna have the full band out there. It's gonna be great. I'm gonna have merch, all that. It's gonna be crazy.
Yes, we like the merch.
Yes.
Hey, thank you. Shout out to DJ.
You gotta rep.
Okay, I would say, definitely same that Micah said. So definitely keep going for sure. definitely trust the process for sure. I know it's not easy for someone like me that thinks a lot, and probably a lot of people that, you know, when life is not going the way we think it should, or, you know, definitely try to trust the process. Trust God first. Try to work on trusting God so you trust yourself, so you can trust the process. Because if you don't trust yourself and you don't trust God, that's a whole nother conversation. So if you can get to a place, take care of yourself is one big thing I'd say. Never make anything your God, because once you start putting people, places, things as God, then it can throw off things a lot, and it can and once you lose yourself in stuff, you know, then you kind of, it can get tough. So don't lose the sense of yourself. Like you said, focus, you know. I think once you focus, that helps you to, it helps you to know when you have a something that you're striving towards, reminding yourself, trying to be organized, write it down. Writing it down is a giant part of my journey for from the beginning. My mom always said it. It's Bible too. It's like, I'm like, this is literally scripture too. Like, it's like, write it down, they'll come to pass. So that was ingrained in my head from a young age. So I think when you write it, even if it takes years, you'll be surprised. Like, there's things I wrote down years ago that just happened this year, you know? So it's like, the more you keep writing it, the more you keep putting a plan, putting it in your calendar, making intentions to have it happen, make it a plan and a date. I think setting a date for yourself, even if you go past the date, it's okay, but set a date and try to be as strong as you can about it being on that date. Because even if you miss the date, you, when you're really serious about making it happen, you're gonna be like, no, I put all this into this, I'm making this happen. Even if I have to push it back a little bit, it's gonna come to fruition, versus like just putting it in the air, this is gonna happen when it happens. So definitely taking care of yourself, focusing, staying committed, remembering what you love and why you're here for sure. And yeah, I think those are the most important things for kind of, you know, keeping on track and making things happen for yourself. And definitely just overall though, perseverance. Like, I think I'm gonna put perseverance on a shirt. Like, I've been saying perseverance gang lately, because I think when you persevere, like, it's, life is gonna throw you a bunch of stuff. And if you, like you said, seasons will happen. You might pause for a season, you might pause for short, it could be a week, it could be a day, it could be years. Hopefully not years, but whatever the time that goes by, try to be productive in that time. What's next for me is, I hope, for me, my hope would be, definitely I would like to get to a place where I could do this full time, where I can be healed doing it though too, that I can be in, I want to get to a certain place where it's not just online, that everything is, it's amazing. And it is fun for sure. But, I want behind the scenes to be just as great as what I'm given, when it's showtime. I want to feel that way more often.
Right.
So that's what I want to do, to have the equilibrium. I want to do it more often. I would, I feel like there's some surprises coming. I would like to get into a lot of things. I like to act. I like to sing. I have a lot of ideas. I have script, show ideas. I have, podcast is still coming.
Yes.
Yeah. It's still coming. It's episode 1 was supposed to be out a long time ago, but again,
Let's get it, man.
Going.
It'll come. It'll come. Now's the time.
It's almost here. I swear it's almost here. It's right around the corner. Like, episode 1's literally in the editing app, and I'm like, podcast is coming, channel's coming. Hopefully y'all will see skits. Hopefully y'all will see a lot of live shows and concerts. I wouldn't even mind if I could see this on a big stage one day and see like the shows that I've dreamed of. That would be what I'd want to be next. And hopefully more merchandise, more clothing, more things that, can come out and be available for the public. Because I'm an idea connoisseur. I have so many ideas, but it's just about getting it. Like this is my merch. It's the only shit that exists, but thank you. But I want to get it out, and there's so much more clothing ideas I have. So let's hope for shows, clothing, more music, God willing, and just peace.
peace and wellness.
You guys were amazing to get to meet. Thank you so much. I learned so much. I was inspired. I don't know if you guys were inspired.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna start writing my Realities Table, the musical, starring Cadence April and Micah on the sax. Just kidding. Thank you for your time. We appreciate
Thank you
it.
so much.
Appreciate it.
Loves and kisses. Bye.